Um, Last week, the piece of shit Greg Abbott had demonized victims that were in the Texas shooting that they had last week, and it says a lot about why the GOP loves their guns. The GOP the GOP base has embraced white nationalist conspiracy theories, and they don't care if immigrants get murdered. Um, the details of the mass shooting near Houston, Texas on Friday are harrowing. The suspect entered the home with an AR-15, intoxicated, intent on gunning down an entire family in revenge for them asking him to be quiet at night. Um, Two of the five dead were women who were found laying on top of living children, having died to shield them from the harm. One of the dead was a child. The natural human response is abject horror and sympathy for these innocent victims who were just trying to live their lives and raise their children in peace. Now, the Texas piece of shit governor, Greg Abbott, who's a Republican, however, has erased his own humanity in his ongoing bid to be a prominent leader in MAGA America. So he responded to the shooting by demonizing the victims, calling them illegal immigrants in his tweets about the crime. Now, I don't give a shit if they were illegal immigrants or not. What happened to them should have never have happened. Um, so this bit of casual cruelty came packaged with an expensive fig leaf, a $50,000 reward to anyone who shares information leading to the suspect's capture. And no doubt, Abbott hoped propping that cash up would deflect attention from his racist pandering. So far, thankfully, it's not working, basically. Now, Greg Abbott's ugly ass words are being contrasted in the press with the reaction of San Jacinto County Sheriff Greg Cape Greg Capers, who choked up as he told reporters, his heart is with the 8-year-old little boy. Basically, the sheriff has the same opinion I have. I don't give a fuck if he was here illegally. If he was here illegally, and I don't care if he was here. I don't give a fuck if he was here illegally. He basically Caper said that the kid was in his county. He says 5 people died in his county, and that is where his heart is, in the county, and protecting the people to the best of his ability. An activist shared the permanent residence card of one of the victims, proving that illegal immigrant is just a racial slur that has no relationship to the actual immigration status of people who get tagged with it. Um, Now, in response to the outcry, Abbott's office claimed he regrets the word choice. No, he doesn't. It was enough to score headlines claiming that he walked back the statement, but actually reading the statement shows he did no such thing. But instead, his office said that they regret if the information was incorrect. They do not regret anything. There was no apologizing for the clear racist intent of describing the victims as illegal. Instead, say people, or if he was looking for specificity, two men, two women, and one child. Now, shocking as it is, it's the phrase that's becoming a cliche when describing Republican behavior in the Trump era. As Philip Bump of the Washington Post noted, Abbott's cruelty-based approach to immigration has become a centerpiece for his political efforts. One of his favorite stunts is shipping people like their cargo around the country so he can be seen dumping immigrants like they are human trash. So implicitly blaming the victims and minimizing their deaths with racist language as sad par for the course. Now Abbott's response also tells us a lot about why most Republican leaders refuse to do anything to keep guns out of the hands of unhinged people, even as most Americans support better regulations on guns. The grim reality is Republicans believe that they benefit politically from mass shootings. Now, for decades, the two most reliable emotions Republicans can tap into in order to motivate their base are racism and fear. Now, a country overrun with guns allows them to dial up the fear to the maximum. Now, watch Fro any given night or listen to Trump's speeches. It's all about how America is supposedly a crime-ridden apocalypse wasteland, and how only authoritarian leaders can save us from the violence. Trump stirs up violence, and he's not going to save us from it. So, having a steady drumbeat of murder stories helps prop that narrative up. Now, of course, tied into that narrative is blatant racism. That's why Abbott labeled these victims illegal. He's selling a story where it's not the guns that are the problem, but that some dark-skinned foreigners are somehow bringing the violence to this country. Dehumanizing the victims also helps convince white conservatives that they don't have to care about these deaths. And that the problem isn't that a clearly disturbed person has access to any gun that can take out a whole family in the space of a few seconds. No, they can tell themselves that the real problem is racial diversity. Now, now the racist fuck Tucker who was fired from Bo, but there's no undoing what is likely his biggest, most evil accomplishment: mainstreaming the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that was drawn directly from neo-Nazis and other white nationalist scum online. In the neo-Nazi circles, which are the Trump supporters, they claim the claim is that a Jewish cabal is conspiring to replace white Christian Americans with people of color through a combination of immigration and manipulating white women into having fewer children. Now the racist fuck Carlson replaced the word Jews with euphemisms like elitists and globalists, but otherwise the conspiracy theory was transmitted intact. Now, even during his his last major interview with Tesla, with the Tesla CEO, right wing troll Elon Musk, they were alluding to the conspiracy theory by claiming civilization's going to crumble because of birth control. Now the piece of shit Carlson was pushing on an open door, but still his campaign to mainstream his this neo-Nazi idea, and the GOP was a resounding success. Now, polling from the Southern Poverty Law Center last year, it showed 68% of Republican voters believe increasing racial diversity is not an actual change, but has been motivated by progressive and Democratic leaders actively trying to leverage political power by replacing more conservatives with white voters, by the conservative white voters. Now, the Republican voters have been trained to see people of color not as fellow human beings, but they see them as an existential threat to themselves. That mentality, as history tells us, leads straight to genocidal thinking. Now, stories like this, where victims of mass shooting are predominantly people of color, function on two levels for the Republican base. It stokes fear of chaos, justifying their desire for fascist leadership, but it also satisfies their cruel desire to inflict pain on immigrants or see them erased entirely. And why on earth would Republicans pass policies that could save the lives of people that they fucking hate? Now this line of thinking is always pulsing beneath the Republican discourse on guns, living in the subtext of their reactions to any murder story where the victims aren't white. Sometimes, however, the subtext becomes the text, such as when the 2022 GOP nominee for Arizona Senate seat, Blake Masters, said that the reason that we have a gun violence problem is because he says it's black people, frankly, and that is racist in its thinking in itself. Abbott layered a little more plausible deniability into his tweet, but he was pointing in the same direction. Using this horrible crime to imply a whiter country would be a less violent one. Now, in truth, research shows that the best predictor of gun deaths in an area is whether Republicans run it. As Colin Woodward of the Nationhood Lab explained in Politico, racism contributes directly as well. For two centuries, gun violence was used first to enforce slavery and then segregation. The result is cultures that have a lot more gun violence overall, and I'd argue that they are also the ones that resort to victim blaming people of color for it as well, which is just about creating an excuse to perpetuate these toxic norms. Now, Abbott's reaction to this crime is more of the same. He's using it to prop up racist fears while also engaging in victim blaming that helps white conservatives avoid asking about real solutions that could actually work. And because ultimately they don't want real solutions, Republicans want to keep their voters trapped in an incoherent but vivid emotional state of fear and racial loathing. Not all of this works to shut down rational faculties so that they can keep voting Republican. Which I don't see why anybody would keep voting Republican because they're racist pieces of shit. And clearly, the GOP leaders don't care how many innocent people are killed in the process, as long as they get their voters. So, if you like the video, you can get the video, like, and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell, so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. You can also go ahead and leave a comment, let me know what you think. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube, and for just a little as a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.